So look at the work they do. The person that does the job you want to do, look at the work they do and put together a portfolio that looks like that. That's it, just draw and paint like the best people out there. That's all you got to do. Hey gang, welcome to Watts Weekly. This week I'm going to be talking about something that is important to this time of year, which is conventions. So we're heading into convention season. So those of you that are planning on heading out and showing your portfolio around or exhibiting at a con or even just going to walk around and enjoy the atmosphere, a few things to kind of remember as you're doing that. One of the big things for me at conventions was always showing my portfolio around. From the very first time that I went when I was 17 years old, I didn't really have a portfolio, but I was showing my sketchbook to pretty much anyone who would look at it. I wasn't looking for work. I was just looking for input and getting an idea of kind of where I was at, because I didn't have a lot of professional artists in my life or around me. I didn't have any really. So I didn't know what it was to be a professional artist or what was involved or how good you needed to be. So I was just looking to get some input and having a good time with some friends. But as I started getting more advanced in my art skills, I started thinking more about what I wanted to do, and I started putting together a portfolio, and eventually I had a decent portfolio that I thought was a professional level and that I thought might get me some work. And just, over the years I kind of kept going through step by step and elevating my skills, taking what I learned at the previous convention or from input from teachers or just my studies in general to try and improve my my portfolio and get better and try and have a better chance at getting work. So one of the first things I want to talk about is your portfolio. A big thing with portfolio, I generally recommend people have at least 6 good solid pieces. That doesn't mean that you can't show your portfolio before that, but I wouldn't expect to get any job offers if you have fewer than 6 pieces in your portfolio. It's a really good idea, and I would say that those 6 pieces, you should keep it to that until you feel like you don't want to leave a piece out. Don't start putting pieces in just because you have them. You always want to put your best foot forward. So start by getting 6 pieces. Once you have 6 pieces in there, start removing the worst pieces and adding in the new ones until there's something that you just flat don't want to take out. And then I would probably cap it at 15 pieces at most. Really, you're going to get a job based on those 5, 6, 7 pieces in your portfolio. The rest of it is just kind of show consistency more than anything, and passion. You want to show that you haven't only done 5, 6, 7 pieces. So that would be my recommendation, is having a good solid 6 pieces and building on that as you move forward. As far as those 6 pieces, I would target my portfolio. That would be my recommendation until you have 6 good solid pieces. You can start to diversify after that, but if you want to do, say, Magic the Gathering work, that's your dream job, then do 6 Magic the Gathering samples. Once you have 6 good Magic the Gathering samples, then you can diversify a little bit, maybe even have a separate portfolio with 6 pieces in it. I've seen that done before. I never did it, but I've seen that done before. So really shoot to have 6 good solid pieces. I know it sounds like I'm repeating myself, but it's really important. 6 good solid pieces that are targeted towards the exact work that you want to do. So that's what I would recommend with the portfolio. Some of the ways to present that portfolio are, the kind of really popular one now is digital. I would recommend getting a tablet if you can afford it. I've got an iPad here. This is how I most often show my work now. I wouldn't do it on a phone. They're just too small. So I would shoot towards getting some kind of a tablet. I like iPad. I know they're a little bit pricey for some people, but some kind of a tablet is a good idea. For a long time I had a Kindle, actually, and you can download images to Kindle, and they're substantially cheaper. So that was really handy until I could afford an iPad. But just because you have a digital portfolio and that's kind of your primary method of showing to people, it's really handy. It's small, it's compact, you can just slide through the images. I would still recommend having a hard portfolio with you because things go wrong. Physical portfolios don't break. They don't shut down, they don't lose internet connection, they don't run out of battery. So you've always got this if you need it. But they are cumbersome. They're big, they're ungainly, you have to flip through pages. So not the best way of going about it, but this is how I always did it because we didn't have things like tablets back when I first started looking for work. So a physical portfolio is still a good idea because, like I said, things go wrong with electronics. A stack of paper, things never go wrong. When ordering your portfolio, I would put your best pieces at the beginning and end. So say you have 6 pieces, put your 2 best pieces in the beginning and your next 2 best pieces at the end, or vice versa. Try to sandwich the stuff that you're not as proud of in the middle, because they're generally going to remember that first impression and the last impression first and foremost. Another good thing to have are leave behinds. This is kind of a hefty packet, but this is my portfolio for interior comic pages. And so I wanted something roughly the size of a comic page so that they could see how that reads to leave behind. Also, business cards can be a good idea. I know they're kind of outdated, and normally I wouldn't really bother, but for an artist they can be a really good idea. You're basically leaving behind a sample of your work. Image of your work on one side, your information on the other. A really good leave behind, especially if you don't want to be carrying around like 20 packets of your work. I would usually have about 5 or 6 packets to leave behind for the clients that I really, really want to work with. And then I'd have the business cards to hand out to other people that are interested, but maybe aren't my first choices. So this is my physical portfolio. These are actual pages that I've worked on, which maybe isn't the best idea. But when I go to cons, I like to have the originals there to show around. And so these are just some physical samples of pages that I worked on a few years ago. I haven't really done any interior samples in a while because I've been busy with covers. But this is the type of thing that I would take and show at a convention to art directors. As far as doing portfolio reviews, it's a tricky thing. A lot of people overpresent themselves, for lack of a better term. When you sit down to a portfolio review, just act professionally. Walk up, introduce yourself, shake hands if that's appropriate. In the age of COVID, maybe a little shakier, but all things being equal, walk up, introduce yourself, shake hands, hand them your portfolio. Make sure that you hand it to them oriented correctly. Try to hand it to them ready to open. So front page, you can even open it for them and hand it facing towards them just as you would want them to hold it. You don't want them to have to take it, open it, and then rotate it around or flip it over. You want it to be as streamlined as possible. And then I would recommend just keeping quiet unless directly asked a question. Let the work speak for you. Don't try to justify things. Don't tell them how long the work took unless they ask. Don't offer excuses for why you didn't do things as well as you could have. Just act as if it's the best work that you've ever done, because it should be. And then let the work speak for you unless they ask specific questions. Don't offer information, because 9 times out of 10, you're going to say something that you don't want to say. It's just human nature to get nervous in a situation like that and stumble and mutter and not present yourself in the best light. Walk up, introduce yourself, smile, shake hands, hand the portfolio to them oriented in the correct fashion, and then let them flip through the book and make their own decisions. If they ask specific questions, give them short, concise, specific answers. That's what's always worked for me in the past. I've seen people just ruin their chances at getting work in a portfolio review session by just talking over the work and trying to explain what they're doing, trying to explain what they tried to do, trying to explain why things didn't work. Just let the work speak for itself. Always the best move. Nowadays, portfolio reviews can be very in demand because they're not walk-up anymore. You usually have to make some sort of, you have to schedule some sort of an appointment. So always try to look through the guides and go to the portfolio review section and see when those reviews are scheduled, see what the criteria for the review is, what you need to do, what the standards are. Sometimes you maybe even want to look online ahead of time, because the convention may just list on their website what the schedule is, but each of those companies might have their own standards where you actually have to submit ahead of time. So always try to be ahead of the curve. And as soon as the schedules start coming out, go to that company's social media, go to that company's website, try to find their standards and processes for it. Because more and more as time goes by, you need to actually submit ahead of time to get a portfolio review slot. Because the art directors are busy, they don't have a ton of time, they've got other meetings. Unfortunately, portfolio reviews aren't always their number one priority. In fact, they're rarely their number one priority. But if you're ahead of the curve and you're intelligent and you plan ahead, usually you can get your work in front of people that do the hiring. That being said, show your work to anyone that'll look at it, because artists will recommend you for work. Some of my first work came from showing my work to other artists that I admired and sort of wished to emulate, and they ended up recommending me for work that they no longer wished to do or that they were too busy to do, because they're very in demand. And so another client might want someone who does a similar type of style or a similar type of look, or is just into similar things, and they'll recommend you. And a recommendation from an established, successful artist goes a long way with art directors. If they don't have to go filing through piles of portfolios and can just take the work of a successful illustrator that they've worked with in the past, it goes a long way. It can cut through a lot of the red tape. Another thing about conventions that you may want to do is actually exhibit at the convention. Artist alleys are great. They're really good. The art directors will come to you, which is always really nice. It's not unusual at all for art directors to walk around a convention looking for new artists. And being in Artist Alley automatically gives you a little bit of credibility, because there's usually a review process of some kind for most conventions. So they're automatically getting past all the people who aren't really that serious, and there's a lot of them out there. So if you're choosing to be a serious professional artist, try to get your stuff juried into Artist Alley. Get yourself a table, even if it costs you, a bit of money. It's really not that expensive when you think about it, because a lot of conventions can cost, $100, $150 for a 3-day pass, and a table's only $400. So it's really only another, $200-$300 more than a pass to actually get a table. Usually you can cover that with selling prints or sketchbooks or something along those lines, which is the next thing I want to talk about. What do you do at a table? You need to make a list for yourself. What are your priorities? Is your priority to make money? Is your priority just to cover cost? Is your priority to meet potential clients? Is your priority to interact with the fan base? What are your goals, and prioritize those for yourself and have your booth set up accordingly. If you want to make money, well, then you're going to want to do market research and find what sells at given cons. At Comic-Cons, prints and sketchbooks do really well. Exclusive merchandise does really well at comic conventions. So just different things like that you want to look for, that is going to give you your best chance of making a little bit of profit. If your main priority is to get work, well, then you're going to want to have your booth set up to display as much of your work. Basically have it be a 6-foot portfolio where you're displaying as much of your work as you possibly can to catch art directors' eyes. So that's, again, market yourself to what you want to do, whatever it is that you're after. At my booth, I like to really market myself as someone who does original artwork. I like to market myself to collectors, basically. Collectibles, original artwork, things like that, things that are unique, things that you can't just get anywhere, is usually what I'm looking for to display at my booth. And brand myself as someone that has the thing that you can't get anywhere else. So I guess that's my biggest advice for you. Plan ahead, look at the schedule, decide what you want to get at a convention, and gear your presentation accordingly. Gear your portfolio accordingly, gear your display accordingly, and look professional. Don't walk up in board shorts and flip-flops. Dress. You don't have to, wear a suit, but wear nice clothes. Get a haircut. Pretend it's a job interview, because it basically is. So I hope you learned a bit about that and got something out of it. And enjoy your next con. What I would have in my portfolio right now. So right now, my favorite work that I have would be my Hulk #4 cover, where it's Hulk fighting Wolverine. My cover that I did for Moon Knight #1, I'm really proud of. My cover that I did for Moon Knight #2, I'm really proud of. My card art that I did for Moon Knight, I'm also really proud of. There's another piece from that card set that I did of Wolverine, where his claws are casting a shadow across his face that I really like. So what's that? That's 5. Let's see, number six. Let's say my Boba Fett piece. That's kind of the like spaghetti western vibe to it. So I guess those would be my 6 favorite. And so here they are. So this is a sample script that I got from Marvel, and it's basically just setting up a fight scene between Elektra and Iron Fist. So she's up on a building doing, superhero stuff. They're always on rooftops. She's jumping down, doing the superhero landing, and then she encounters Iron Fist. They kind of face off, do their, gunslinger thing, get in an argument, and then she pretends to jump off the edge. He panics, and it turns out that it was a trick, and she ambushes him from behind. How she got from there to behind him, who knows? It's comics. He throws her through a window, and then they get in kind of a like Kill Bill type fight sequence where it's really tight and tightly paced. Throws her through the window, attacks her. She gets him in a leg lock. He smashes something over her head. Goes to club her, and she kicks him through a door and down some stairs. They tumble down the stairs, some more fighting, and then he tackles her, and they fly out the window. My first convention, I met several notable people at my first convention because it was the age of Image, and I am and was a huge comic book fan. So I actually met both Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld at my first comic convention and got them to sign books just out on the floor. I didn't even have to stand in line or anything. They were just walking the floor, and I walked up and bugged them, and they were both nice enough to sign books there on the spot. So it gets a little blurry because it was 30 years ago, but yeah. So, but those would be the two that come right to mind. I know there were a couple other people in the first few years, but those are the two big ones that come to mind that I was really happy to get to meet. At WonderCon, I will be at my table in Artist Alley. It's table E09, and I should be there most of the time. The only time that I'll be away from it will be each day for a short lunch break. In the middle of the day, somewhere around like 1 to 3, I'll be taking a lunch break. But I should be at my table most any time, and if I'm not there, someone is going to be watching it for me, and they'll have my number. So if you want me to head back, I'll usually just be walking the floor or grabbing some lunch, so they can just text me, and I'll be over in 5-10 minutes. So yeah, I'm there to meet you guys. So if you come by, yeah, it should be real easy to get in touch with me. Again, just do research and find what the artwork looks of the people that do the job you want to do. So that would be what I would recommend is find a sort of patron saint. Find an artist that is who you would like to be, and look at their work and put together a portfolio that, not necessarily stylistic, you don't want to rip them off, but look at what they put on their website, look at what they display, look at what they show to the world, and try to do something as close to that level as you can. So look at the work they do, the person that does the job you want to do, look at the work they do, and put together a portfolio that looks like that. That's it, just draw and paint like the best people out there. That's all you got to do. Best place to eat in Anaheim. I don't know if it's the best place, but I would go to downtown Disney and enjoy downtown Disney. You don't have to buy a ticket to get in there. It's outside of the park, so you can just walk over actually from the convention center and go to downtown Disney. It's certainly not the best restaurant, but I enjoy Tortilla Joe's. My comic cover bucket list. There aren't a ton of them. I would say Etrigan the Demon is pretty high up there for me. I haven't got to paint him yet. Pretty much any of the X-Men. I've painted a few of the big name X-Men, but there's some of the ones lower down the list that I would like to paint. Nightcrawler is pretty high on that list. Longshot's pretty high on that list. Colossus is pretty high on that list. So, there's just so many X-Men. There's just tons and tons of them. I don't know if I'll ever get to paint them all. But those would be some of the biggest. Daredevil. I haven't gotten to paint Daredevil yet, so he's really high on the list. So yeah, those would be some of the big ones. Probably Daredevil, pretty much any X-Men I haven't painted yet, and Etrigan the Demon if I had to put just a short list. But there's so many. There's I could spend the rest of my life painting Marvel characters and DC characters and never get bored. So. Right now, probably looking at the original art mostly. Anybody in Artist Alley that's selling original art or any of the sort of fine art, original art booths are where I'll be spending most of my time. But I'm also always combing through the back issue boxes looking for some keys that I'm missing in my collection. But those would be the biggest things. Trying to meet some artists that I maybe haven't met or haven't gotten to see in a while, because with COVID there haven't been any conventions. So there's quite a few friends and acquaintances that I haven't gotten to see, and artists that I've never gotten to meet. So Artist Alley, the original art booths, and just anywhere where there's original art or good back issue bins.